Should I rope Sal into our conversation from in the break here?
Absolutely.
All right, let me pose the question to Sal. Good morning, Sal. How are you?
What am I in for here? Good morning, guys.
It's a question you might have expected us to bring up like during the Olympics. In fact, someone did probably somewhere along the way. You get 4 years of unlimited resources. It's the only thing you're doing. What's the Olympic sport that you are trying to attain and not embarrass yourself at the next Olympic Games? What sport? You get to choose whichever sport you want. You get 4 years and unlimited resources to do nothing but that thing.
I guess you'd have to start with a base of like you're okay at it. You could do it, right? You know what I mean?
Well, you're starting at where you are right now. You got to get to a place where you're not embarrassing yourself, or even doing well. Maybe you think you would do well at it. Like someone like Joe brought up golf in the break. I'm like, no, there's no amount of teachings and like I am not going to look good golfing at the next Olympic Games. Like that's not possible.
Okay, but here's the thing: no matter what you do, you're not going to look good at any sport. Right? You're just giving yourself the best chance to look the best you can.
Yes.
But you're still going to look terrible and be embarrassed on the world stage compared to the greatest athletes in the world, right?
Yes, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so
we like curling is how this came up because I'm going curling this weekend.
Oh, there you go. Like that's something that like I don't know, blame it on don't blame it on you, the person sweeping or something.
Right,
I don't know.
Exactly. Right, that's right.
So the answer, like I've always said, like I actually know how to triple jump, and I was a pretty good long jumper and triple jump when I was younger. And it's not like it's something that most people can't do. But dude, even if I had 4 years, I'd be like, 25 feet behind the people in the Olympics who were doing it, which is pretty embarrassing. So, and then I think, well, maybe how about something like speed walking these days? Is speed walking a sport now?
It is. I don't think they show it on TV ever, which is why like I feel like I've never seen it. But whenever like we look up lists of Olympic sports, speed walking is on there, which is always a weird one because they must not. I mean, they obviously would penalize you if you run by accident. So how fast are you really allowed to go? It's a weird one. That's a weird sport.
Might be something in there. It might be something in there with like shooting or archery, something that doesn't require you to be like as physically good as everybody, but something that you still requires obviously talent or whatever, but maybe not physically strong or fast as other people.
I think Sal found the right one. I think speed walking has got to be number one so far of what I've heard.
Not boxing against Floyd Mayweather?
No. We'll get to that later. Anyway, Sal from the Combine in Indianapolis, Jeremy and Joe. No Jeremy this morning here on WGR. So yesterday we had some defensive linemen speaking and linebackers. And before we get to some Combine stuff, Sal, there was a report yesterday that the Bears could be looking to trade or even have given permission for Tremaine Edmunds to be traded. And just from the connection here and thinking about like the type of player he is, did he spark any thoughts for you on like what could that mean anything here? Too expensive a player? Is it a non-starter for you? Because doesn't he kind of fit the defense that they're switching to?
I've always believed Tremaine Edmunds is a more 3-4 inside linebacker than he is a 4-3 middle linebacker, which is what he played in Buffalo. I think he played 4-3 on the outside in Chicago. I've always believed 3-4 is his better fit, but I think that ship has sailed as well. I know like the joke is how young he is. He's not as young anymore, obviously. And we've seen that play out, and Tremaine never fully became the physical freak that people thought he would be when he came in this league. He had trouble shedding blocks, getting off blocks sometimes. He also made good plays. I don't think he gets enough credit sometimes for the plays he did make or, the fact that he was a pretty solid player when he was here. He just didn't make splash plays, I guess. He didn't make enough game-changing plays. It's not something I'd be interested for the Bills right now. I just think it would cost too much money. I think that's a player people have seen here before. You'd always kind of think, well, he's not quite good enough, and you want better. There's no doubt about that. I do, however, think I'd like to see him go somewhere where he could play that role, Joe, because I think that we might see a little different Tremaine Edmunds and a better Tremaine Edmunds. So I do think he's more suited for that 3-4 inside linebacker role. But I also think the Bills actually have a bunch of linebackers on their team that might be more suited for that, including Terrell Bernard, including Dorian Williams, including Joe Andreessen. I think all of them actually can translate to the inside of a 3-4, maybe better than they could be a 4-3 true Mike linebacker.
Joe Andreessen, who is only 1 year younger than Tremaine Edmunds, amazingly. There's another on the youth of Edmunds. Yeah, what they do at that position will be interesting, like how much they want to invest in it? Because I've heard the same thing, and maybe it was even from you, about like how some of these guys fit better into what they might be kind of evolving into. And I have heard that about Andreessen, but I don't know, like, is he someone that you think about now that he's been here for 2 years? Like, is he the level of athlete that you think could ever surprise everybody and become like a regular player on defense?
It's a good question. Probably not. I think if Joe Andreessen's starting 17 games, you might be thinking, okay, like, when are we looking to upgrade? But I don't want to make that a shot at Joe Andreessen because I think he could be on your roster and be a solid player and, still fill in admirably and, still play a bunch for you. But who knows? I mean, he's still only going into his third year in the NFL, and this kid has not surprised. This kid has surprised along the way every step, and he's really kind of opened people's eyes. So who knows? I mean, and maybe he goes to camp and it's him and Dorian Williams next to Terrell Bernard, trying to fight for that spot. Something interesting that Brandon Beane said, though, the other day about this position, he was asked specifically, like, do you think that getting one in the draft is better or somebody in free agency? And he didn't answer that specifically. He's not going to do that. And he also said there's not one way to do it. But he did mention having, like, smart players, guys who understand what they're supposed to do. And I think that gets me more to free agency, like guys that they think they can just kind of plug in, and especially in a new defense with Jim Leonard, and might be a little more complex, I guess, in some ways with the moving parts. And then yesterday I caught up with John Ledyard. I'm going to play that tomorrow on Extra Point Show. And John, he's really good. He's been on the station a lot. And I really trust a lot of John's film study. And John said the same thing. John said what I think the Bills really need. He said he likes Jim Leonard a lot. He thinks the Bills actually have more parts than people think to fit his defense. He said, but they need really smart linebackers. That's what they need. And, I couple that with Brandon Beane, and I do think that maybe you're looking at, and it doesn't mean you can't get one in the first round, but I think they go shopping in free agency to find that guy next to Terrell Bernard.
Yeah, a veteran that's you can kind of plug right in right away.
We heard the name Leo Chenal a lot, right? Leo Chenal
yeah.
is a free agent. He played for Jim Leonard at Wisconsin. He's been very good for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, to me, I mean, right now, I'm like, bam, he's the number one guy atop my, who could they wind up going out there and getting?
Yeah, I'm actually a subscriber to John Ledyard's Audibles and Analytics. He kind of goes player by player. And he did linebackers a couple of weeks ago. And I was reading a lot of those because I think that's possible, right? Like, he did a good breakdown on C.J. Allen, for instance, on Georgia, and said that could be a guy that goes around where the Bills pick. And not necessarily on the player specifically, Sal, but like that idea for an investment like that. Like, I'm kind of with you, thinking you could just grab I think Alex Singleton is a free agent, right? Like, go grab a linebacker that might be middle-of-the-road money, maybe he was even a little bit cheaper, plug it in, veteran guy, see how that goes. Is them investing an asset like their first-round pick to you, like, realistic at the position?
Only realistic if there's a guy that really jumps off the page at them, I feel like that's a position where they feel they could probably get more bang for their buck by not having to do that, and a first-round talent would fit better and get more bang for your buck in another position, whether that be wide receiver or defensive tackle or edge rusher or something like that. I just think that the nature of the position and the value that it holds, you're probably going to get something better from a different spot, and you can find a guy still at linebacker either later in the draft or through free agency.
And linebackers start working out today, I believe, right? Some of the workouts start rolling today.
I believe so, yeah.
Defensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, and place kickers. So the guys that would have talked yesterday will work out today. So on the defensive lineman group, too, because they talked yesterday. They're on the field. Did we get anything from Beane on how that position group looks and like how Ed Oliver fits? I know there's health also, right? Because like their end position, Sal, right now for next year, it's Greg Rousseau, and then it's mostly guys that are either injured or are free agents.
Yeah, so Beane, he talked a little bit about some of the guys he was asked about, like Greg Rousseau, like how does he fit? They just paid Greg Rousseau. Obviously he's somebody they really like, but maybe his role looks a little bit different in this defense. Not saying he wouldn't be an edge rusher, but he might have to stand up a little bit more, or be a little bit wider or something like that. Which might be different. Everything's going to be different, I guess. It's just a Greg Rousseau point. But that's a guy that's not going anywhere. Is my point, right? We know that. You know what he said? You know who he talked about, Joe, which was really interesting to me, was Javon Solomon. Mm-hmm. Like, kind of out of the blue. Like he said, when they drafted Javon Solomon, they actually thought maybe he was a little bit more of a 3-4 edge, but they liked him a lot, and they wanted to put him in and thought they could do some things with him. Remember, Javon Solomon actually played a little bit of that Michael Hoyt role after Michael Hoyt got hurt, and they moved him around. And I do think that the archetype of what they're looking at the defensive line, especially edge, might be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. So the reason I bring up Greg Rousseau is, Greg Rousseau's still going to be an edge rusher for the Bills, but maybe if you are running this defense that year, you don't draft Greg Rousseau. Maybe you're looking for somebody different because the archetype is a little bit different. Not saying he can't fit in your defense, but saying that maybe you're just looking for different types of guys to fill the top end of your roster for this defense. Landon Jackson is a guy that's coming back. Again, coming off the injury. I did ask Brandon Beane specifically about the three guys, Landon Jackson, Michael Hoyt, and Tyler Bass. He said, I'm not going to put a timeline on any of them. He said Tyler Bass is a little bit more, he's closer. I forgot to ask him about Dwayne Carter. I should have done that. He probably would have put him in the same boat as Hoyt and Jackson, by the way. Doesn't mean Hoyt or Jackson can't be ready, but those are guys on the D-line, obviously, that they're going to have to rely on. They also, remember last year, brought in Andre Jones towards the end of the year. I thought Andre Jones actually played pretty well when he was on the field for the Bills. He's under contract. They have him. I just think it's super fascinating to me to see how do Walker and Sanders, Carter when he comes back, and Ed Oliver, like, how does that look? Who's your nose tackle? How do you use that rotation? And then there's Fedarian Mathis, who, I'm telling you, Joe, I think that they really like him enough that he's going to be a player that's going to factor into this when it's all said and done. That's why they re-signed him.
Yeah, I saw he's the same age and was, I think, only 2 picks different than Jordan Phillips when he got to the Bills. Like, they were both second-round picks. I think they were both at the same age when they got to the Bills. Not to say he'll be Jordan Phillips or even he's the same exact type of player, but, I mean, that was a second-round pick that didn't work out with his first team, and then he came here, and bam, it did. And Mathis being the same thing, I think the likelihood is it would be the same or similar to it. So we'll see. In terms of today, we get interviews from the defensive backs and the tight ends, right, for the media?
Yeah, and I don't think they divide them up safety corner. I have to see. I think it's just.
I think it's all defensive backs.
Yeah, I'll be leaving here actually this afternoon, so I won't be there for that today. So my time here is done because we're done with all of the coaches and GMs and things like that. Now it's about the prospects, and then they go on the field, at Lucas Oil Stadium, which has changed over the years too. It used to be many years ago the media could do it, then the media couldn't do it for a long time. Now the media actually can do it and go in there and watch and things like that. So that part of it has changed, but I won't be here for that. I was actually packing before I went on the air with you, and I was thinking, I was like, when you pack and you go someplace, it's kind of meticulous, right? You're leaving, you're like, oh, I want to make sure this shirt is, kind of folded right. And then I'm packing to leave, and it's like just throwing everything in the suitcase and not caring because are you the same way? Like,
yes.
You're going to go home and wash everything anyway, right?
Just you get everything in we'll bring like a garbage bag. Put everything in a garbage bag and then stuff it down. Like all the dirty clothes. So that's all separated.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and or sitting on the suitcase. I don't care. I'm just throwing everything in there and making sure I get everything in right.
See, now though, I am experiencing where I will do that, and then it doesn't fit as well, and then my wife will fold the dirty clothes. Some of them, just so that it fits better. But I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
get to the
doing
point
that.
where I do that, and then I realize, oh my god, I forgot my I don't know, my toiletry bag or something, and now I got to fit that in there and reopen it and put it in or something.
So what's not to move totally off the combine, but what's next? Like, we got free agency in a couple of weeks, and then league owner meetings are not that far away, right?
So league owner meetings, annual league meetings, owners meetings, are the end of March in Phoenix.
Okay.
So when this is over, you're only going to get, Joe, March 9th is the day you can start talking to free agents.
Right.
What's today? March 9th is a Monday. It's a week from Monday.
11 days from now. Yeah.
It's a week from, think about that. So Monday morning, when you get up Monday morning, you're doing your show Monday morning, we're going to be 1 week out from talking to free agents, right? Mm-hmm. And then they can do that, and then they can start signing free agents on March 11th, Wednesday, which is the start of the new league year. So to answer your question, that's the new thing. Brandon Beane was asked about Dawson Knox, and he acknowledged something's got to be done with his contract. But he also said, we got some time here. It doesn't have to be done in the 24 hours. I think sometimes as fans and media, you got to get everything done here soon because time is of the essence. And there is a time limit on it, but I think the team takes care of business here, and then they take care of all that stuff in the next week when they have to get back to Buffalo or wherever, and they start doing that. So that's free agency. And then you're going to wait like 3 weeks, and then it's the owners' meetings where, that's rules proposals, things like that they'll do. And we'll get more. We'll know more about the roster, what it looks like. 'Cause you'll have 3 weeks into free agency by then. Free agency's kind of over. And then you're really ramping up towards the draft, which is at the end of April.
Is there any benefit to teams, like, for instance, like Curtis Samuel? Like, everyone kind of expects that he'd be one of these guys where you'll save your $6 million, you'll take your $3 million in dead cap, and you'll release him. Is there any reason why they wouldn't do that now? Like, do they have to wait to the new league year? Is there any benefit to it?
No, they could do it now if they want. I think what you try to do is you come here and you try to scope out the landscape, so to speak, try to talk to agents, figure out what's going on. I mean, we all know, Joe, it's like kind of, you're not allowed to talk to agents about players, but we all know what happens here when guys start talking, people start talking, you figure out what the market is for certain people, things like that. So I think the benefit is you wait to make sure what you want to do is the right thing based on what else is happening around the league. But if you already have it under, hey, we're going to do this, you might just want to wait to make sure the business of the combine happens here. You can concentrate on that. I mean, they're doing these interviews and all that. It might just simply be logistics. Hey, we got to do the combine stuff. We got 45 interviews with guys. Want to make sure we get through all that. Once we wrap that up, we close that book, get back to Buffalo. Now we can start to, formulate our roster. So I would say that's the only there's no tangible benefit other than maybe understanding what else is happening around the league before you do it.
Sal Capaccio with us on the Westher hotline. Sal, I don't know how much guys around the league there are talking about the quarterback market. I would assume some, even though there aren't really big names that are available this offseason. But there's been some Derek Carr reporting in the last day. There also was some reporting that maybe teams are reaching out about Andy Dalton in Carolina. Like, Mac Jones is an idea that I know Kyle Shanahan's been talking about. Like, really any of these guys have to be traded for. And I wonder, do you see a couple of teams, like maybe Minnesota, Pittsburgh, being desperate enough and not having these great ideas available to them that, the best idea for a quarterback-needy team this offseason might be call on the best backups in the NFL and just try to trade for them?
Yeah, it might be because unless you get Malik Willis, right? Malik Willis is the number one free agent target. So I still think, Miami would really like him because the Green Bay connection there with the coach coming over from Green Bay. But, Joe, let's remember, you could also call on starters, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, right? If you really want somebody, maybe that's a route to go for some of these teams where they bring in somebody who's already been a starter at another position, maybe not a backup. But to your point, you're right. I mean, this isn't like, a free agency year where, there's some guys out there. Like Pittsburgh's point, though, I mean, it feels like they're just going to do what they do, which is wait around for Aaron Rodgers instead of making their own move. And then, Aaron Rodgers, what if he doesn't play? Oh, he's not playing? Oh, what do we do now? I don't know. Maybe then they go out and get somebody. So they are not a proactive organization when it comes to that, obviously. But I do think that Tua is going to be no longer in Miami. Kyler Murray's probably no longer going to be in Arizona. So those are probably a couple guys on top of the ones you mentioned where teams start to poke into them.
Right. The Rodgers thing, there was another report yesterday. Like, he might make his decision, at the end of March. Well, if I'm the Steelers,
right?
I gotta wait until after free agency. Like, a lot of quarterbacks are gonna find their dance partner before you're gonna make your decision. And then if you decide I'm done, then I'm supposed to do what? I'm supposed to just force a draft pick, maybe, or I don't know. I don't know what you do if you're them. I don't know what you do really if you're any of these teams that need a quarterback right now. Like, even Miami with the Malik Willis rumor. Like, if I'm a Dolphins fan, should I really want that? Like, what am I trying to be this year? Am I trying to be competitive? Do I think Willis is a long-term answer, or do I want to be focusing on next year's draft, which is supposed to be flush at the position? I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do.
Maybe you can do both, even with Malik Willis. I like Malik Willis. That's not right. I'm not saying it's because he's bad. What I'm saying is because the roster just isn't going to be good, right? So how much could Malik Willis really elevate you to a point where it's costing you high draft picks next year? But I do think talking with, Miami media who's here, the consensus is they're finally doing it right. Well, that's fine. We've heard that about the Jets and we've heard that about the Browns many times before, right?
Yeah.
And you still have to do it right. I tell you, I don't know. A good guy to talk to is Armando Salguero, and I know Chopin the Bulldog have him on a lot. He's kind of the opposite ilk. He's I talk with him. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying because I'm sure he's said it, which is he thinks, come on. When you tank, right? We use that word. when you tank, it just rots the culture of the organization, and there's no telling if you're going to recover from it at some point. And we've seen that happen. Look, I think that's an argument. We had that debate, 10 years ago in Buffalo with Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart and what happened when, going to the bottom. And yeah, we know that they didn't make the proper moves, but I do think that can happen to an organization where if you go too far and it doesn't particularly work with one player and they're not ready to carry that, or the person you bring in, franchise quarterback, hockey player, whatever, that can fester in your organization. And now you're not going to recover for another several years.
Sal Capaccio with us. Was there a Sabre watch party out last night in Indianapolis? Was there?
Great. I'm glad you asked, because myself, Josh Reed, and Matt Perino, we went out for dinner last night. And I said to them, I'd like to go out a little bit earlier because I do want to find the Sabres game somewhere. Now I have it on my phone where I can watch it, which is fine. Mm-hmm. So after dinner, kind of we're sitting around. I put it on my phone, and I said, let's go somewhere we can watch the game. We go to there. I know I've told you this before. Indy really is a cool city. It's got a lot of great restaurants. I like their downtown a lot. It's just the way it's set up as a big convention city. And they have quite a few, like all the steakhouses, yes, but they have a lot of really good sports bars too, and places with televisions. So we went to a place called Kilroy's, actually, called Kilroy's. Mm-hmm. Walk in. I mean, there's TVs everywhere, but it's like basketball on every TV, college basketball, NBA. And I said to the server, I'm going to ask you a question. You might get here, you might not a lot, but do you guys can you put a hockey game on for me? And she said, probably. What's the game? And I said, Buffalo Sabres, New Jersey Devils. And sure enough, 3 big screen TVs, it pops up, and we sat around and watched 2 periods of the game.
3 TVs?
Yeah. Because, TVs. you could troll one, and it controls 3 of them when there's 25 in the place. You know what I mean?
Right. That, Combine Week, you should be expecting, there are people from out of town coming in, and, I got to be ready. I got to be ready to put on anything. The Anaheim Ducks game, maybe. Anything.
And listen, when Tage scored, I went, yeah, like that. You know what I mean? And people were looking at me like, what's going on? They're all looking at the basketball games. I'm watching the hockey game over here. So yeah, we did get to watch the game, and last 2 minutes or whatever. And it's kind of cool. It's, Josh Reed, Channel 4 sports director, he's never covered playoff hockey since he came back to Buffalo. Joe, I moved back to Buffalo. I moved back to Buffalo from Florida literally 4 months after the last Sabres playoff game. You can blame me. They haven't made the playoffs since I moved back, because they were in the playoffs that year, and then they had the playoffs and they lose. I come back in 2011, in August of 2011. I actually went to a Stanley Cup game when they played the Stars, but I was in Florida and came up. I have not lived in Buffalo again for the playoffs since the 90s.
The Capaccio curse. He came back. And there's not a lot of guys at all that were covering the last playoff for the Buffalo Sabres. There's been a lot of, people change.
That's probably right. Bove was here. He grew up here, right?
Right.
So he was here, and he wasn't maybe in the media. But so we were talking. So the point is, we're watching, and we're all invested in this. And I know from Josh's perspective, he's telling me about, he's got to start thinking about staffing for playoffs, because that's literally the first week of the playoffs is also the week of the NFL draft.
Is that right? The first week of the playoffs?
Yes. April 18th starts the NFL playoffs. The draft is what, the 23rd?
Okay. Yeah, that's right. The 23rd. So 23rd is round 1. Yeah. Yeah,
the first night of the NHL playoffs, however they scheduled teams, is April 18th.
Okay. Well, we'll have to text Jeremy. Our draft party this year, we might have to have multiple TVs going at the same time.
Right. That's right. It could be a draft /
Game 3
Sabres playoff. Here's the thing, though. If it's a home game, you might have a decision to make, pal. And you're like, I want to. But anyway, we'll work that out. But no, it's good. We haven't had anything like that in a while, and it was kind of cool, because the point I'm making is the last 2 minutes of the game, we're all dialed in, because, personally and professionally, right, for all of us here who do this, it matters.
Right. Sal Capaccio in the West Rhode. Thank you, Sal. We'll chat later in the week.
All right, you got it, man. Thanks.
Sal from the Combine. You can check out all the stuff at WGR550.com.